Good morning, guys. Good morning. This is October 2023 reading wrap up. Pretty quick this month, and we're doing it on time, as the title suggests. Pretty solid month this month. I wasn't sure how October was going to fall through in terms of all the reading that I had to do. Pretty much wrapped up whatever I had at the library finally. So now I'm still building up my physical TBR. I'm halfway through my shelves, filling them stacks of books I was going to get rid of, deciding what ones I want to keep and try to read or reread, plus picking up whatever I can pick up at little free libraries and here and there when I can buy something for very, very cheap. Basically going to go right through it. I do have one physical book to with me this month, so you can actually see kind of what I was reading. Again, now it's kind of on average, a little bit down from my normal yearly or what I've normally been hitting most of the year in terms of good reading, which was really my peak in the summer. Forgive the background noise. If you hear something, you hear something. Please let me know if that I should really get a microphone. I would normally do this on my phone, but for some reason my settings are not set up where I can do it on the phone. So let's work together as we build this channel of mine. I originally had set about 5 days ago or so. I decided I'm ending on an even number. Up until then, I had read 5 out of 10 books, finished 5 out of 10 books. I thought that's good. I can wrap up a week early in terms of my stats, and then I can just jump on, hopefully on the 25th, and just do what I need to do going into next month. And then over the weekend, I finished one of my book club books, the only book club book I was able to get to this month. Just haven't been able to get copies for the other book club, and so I'm still following that book club. I have the next couple of months picks on a list. I just need to find a way to get more involved in that. I think going into this, my stats are definitely going to be less because I will be not picking up anything from the library, have no reason to, nothing will be on hold. My goal is to build up my physical shelves so that I can start doing TBR games again going forward. I have about 3 that I will probably do. And no matter what game I do, I've decided already that whatever I don't get to or don't finish will automatically go into the next month. But that's still a while away, hopefully sooner than I'm trying to build up the whole shelves, as you saw. So getting right into it, going to keep it relatively short today. So ended up reading 6 out of 11. I've been averaging between 5 and 8 or so for the year. So I'm kind of there. I knew October was going to be interesting. I definitely had sort of goals in the way of finishing or getting through what I had out from the library. So the first book that I finished was Paris Hilton's memoir, Paris. I was looking forward to this one. I have seen Paris talk about this in a couple of interviews. I was actually really, really proud of her. It tells the story, y'all. It is worth picking up if you are interested in Paris at all. She does talk about her struggle with mental health in a very real and very relatable way. She talks about being in a mental institution. She talks against her will from a very young age. Um, the girl is smart. I know she has not portrayed herself, and the media has not portrayed herself as such a way. She admits this. She sort of comes forward with this. On the topic of memoir, Brittany's is of course coming out. That one will also be very interesting to get to at some point. The Woman in Me is Britney Spears' memoir, which is coming out within the next month or so. So let's keep our eyes out for that. But Paris, she talks the way she writes, but um, it's very straightforward and very honest. And that's what you kind of want from a memoir. And the next one I finished, it was a book club book called All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, or Dorr, Anthony Dorr. Um, I finally, I finally got to this book and finally finished it. I have picked this book up probably. Um, I was never going to read this book from the time it was published, and then I picked it up once or twice. Never really finished it. The only way I was ever going to finish this was if I happened to read it with a group of people and in a book club. So that's what happened. So I glad I can say I can finally say that I actually read this book. Um, I'm not a big fan of third person, which is how the book is addressed in its narration and its scope. Um, I could totally understand with better appreciation the appeal of this book. Um, so I did finish it. Not really doing ratings at this point, so just going by my list here. But I'm just glad I can say that I finally got to it. Next book I finished was a collection of poetry and short stories um, by Dorothy Parker. Dorothy Parker was a notorious New York 1930s, 1940s writer, very famous, very well known, very in depth. I found some new favorite poems that hopefully I can reference at some point. Just mind me as I adjust my camera here. I'm trying to look straight forward, but not just the computer camera. Um, Glad I got to it. Glad I was able to read it. Dorothy Parker, anything by Dorothy Parker, one of our great 20th century writers. Next book I finished was a Victoria Holt novel, Secret of the Nightingale by Victoria Holt. Secret of the Nightingale by Victoria Holt. I have read a few of Victoria's books. I plan on rereading at least one of her books at some point if I can get a copy. And really, I think I'm ready to really explore Victoria Holt in depth. I've read about two or three of hers in the past, at least. I like her. I haven't found my favorite Victoria Holt book yet, although Secret of the Nightingale, this book completely takes place in Europe, in India, and this young woman, her coming of age story, and of course there's a romance in there. Um, very, very special book. It flowed very beautifully. A lot of foreign names, which you can sort of forgive that, foreign terms, which you can sort of forgive that because the way the story unfolded in terms of going back and forth between political angst, romance, adventure. Secrets of the Nightingale by Victoria Holt. Very, very escapist. I will leave it at that. Next book I finished was East of Eden. I've reread East of Eden, and I'm so glad I did. I think it's becoming one of my favorite books of all time by Steinbeck, and in one of my favorite books of all time. Period. It's a story I so appreciate. It's basically a Hatfield and McCoy kind of story to a degree of these two families who sort of meet, intertwine in the Pinellas Valley in California. And you sort of see the progression of their lives and interwoven lives as they get older, as they suffer through economic times and um, just the strife of America at that time told through the eyes of the family members. You haven't read it, or if you feel like you need to reread it, I highly recommend it. I've probably read it about 3 times at this point in the last 10 years. At one point, I owned this book, and this particular copy I'd gotten from the library just because I felt like it was time for me to reread it. I might go back to this book again every couple of years. It is that kind of novel. And the last book I finished, trying to keep this well under a good amount of time, is, and technically I realized I did have my copy of All the Light We Cannot See, but I was too lazy to get back up and get it and didn't want to waste too much time. Lessons in Chemistry. Oh, can we get by Bonnie Garmas? Garmas, by Bonnie Garmas. Lessons in Chemistry. Again, a book that the only way I was probably ever going to get to it in any way was if the book club happened to suggest it. The person who runs our book club, she has been meaning to get to this book for a very long time. She's been very excited about it. Basically, the group didn't have a choice a couple months ago when they were picking their next couple of books. She really wanted to read this one. And I could appreciate this book. This book is almost like a Mona Lisa Smile-esque kind of a story, taking place in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s and onward, looking at a woman who kind of reinvents herself. She is a scientist, she is a chemist, and by way of unusual circumstances, she becomes a cookery host, a cooking show host. And this book has been noted for having very strong feminist views. I remember, excuse me, no offense to Bonnie Garmas, Bonnie Garmas, and I'm hoping that I can hold this up in a proper way because I did enjoy this book. Again, I knew about this book. This book has been a notable book for the last year. It is still on the New York Times bestseller list. And I gotta tell you, it's very sassy, very, very, very funny. Not my favorite book, but I'm glad I got to it. I'm glad I can say I actually read it. And I could see the appeal at this time. I hope the writer continues to do work. I think she is a great writer. I think Bonnie is someone who has reinvented herself in many ways. Certainly as a writer, it sounds like she couldn't find books that she wanted to read, so she wrote one, which is very common. Excuse my hair, I put it up in the back. And if anyone has any tips for keeping hair down once you pull it back, please feel free to tell me. Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmas. God, I'm butchering this name and I don't mean to. Highly recommended if you're looking for a fun, savvy, sassy book. Very light, but very well written, very beautifully written. And the story, if you don't mind the story going back and forth in time, it's a great, it's just a good read. I probably would not have gotten to this on my own. So I am glad that I can at least say once again that I got to it. Okay, I'm about 3 minutes longer than I wanted to be. Maybe because I was trying to remember everything about this book, even though I just finished it. This was the 6th book for the month. I thought I was going to be reading it kind of up until this week, going into November, but I ended up finishing it this weekend. Don't tell my book club host, although I probably will tell her anyway that I have finished it already. So we'll see. We try to go at the same pace as each other. She doesn't like when we read ahead. So I fell down the rabbit hole, so to speak, but not unhappy that I fell down the rabbit hole. Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmas. Oh, Lord, I'm never going to get that name. I am so sorry, Miss Garmas. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up kind of early. Going to keep it relatively short today. Thank you guys so much for listening to my wrap up. still working on sound and scope and setting for these videos. I figured since I was up and had time this morning, I figured I would do my reading wrap up on time when I like to. As you may know, I like to read from the 25th to the 25th. I feel like I get more done that way than doing it a traditional month. So that's it, guys. That's my reading wrap up, and hope to see you guys soon. And drop me a line, drop me a chat anytime. Let's grow this channel together. All right. You are loved, you are blessed, you are prayed for. Let's all help each other out in whatever way that we can, as much as we can. No good deed is too big or small. I like to believe that, especially now. Take care, everyone. Have a good day.